What is up, guys? Mcdoubles back again with a brand new episode, and today we're going to be playing some Burning Crusade Project Ascension Alpha.
What's that? Am I denying you something?
What I want to be doing in this video is showing you guys some of the features I have not shown you before, some really cool stuff being added with the alpha, as well as two ways you can play the game with the Holy Templar, which is like a holy hybrid build, and Slam Spec build, that are very easy to play and can get you into the game. You can literally copy these builds and right off the bat you'll pull very good DPS. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. Let's jump right in. Okay guys, so the first thing I want to talk about is the new way to choose your primary stat, so stat allocation. You'll notice I don't have the little button down here to click, and in fact you just see my stance bar for actually allocating my stats. Now if you don't know, you had something like 213 total points. You would get points every time you leveled up from 1 to 60. And most people would put 150 points, which was the max amount of points you could put into something, into one primary stat, and then they would put the rest of the 63 points into, let's say, stamina, or intellect, or agility. Whatever extra little thing they needed to make their build better. Honestly, what ended up happening with the stat allocation system is that it was incredibly cookie cutter and there was actually no choice. The original intent was that maybe you want a few points in intellect and then a few points in strength, and you can divvy it up in your own way. But of course that's not going to work when you can just put everything into one stat and just kind of tunnel vision. So the way that they've gone ahead and changed this is that now if you click your character advancement button, you'll notice, first of all, there's a brand new UI, but I showed that in my last video. The real thing to see is now on the top right, you can actually click a primary stat, and by default, it will give you stats based on the one that you chose. So it's basically taking what was already cookie cutter, streamlining it, not trying to feign complexity, and just making it simple for the player. That's something I really appreciate. Believe it or not, guys, stat allocation confuses a lot of new players. Project Ascension is incredibly difficult for new people, even veterans, right? What's the point of choosing if I just put all of my stuff into one stat? So this is better, and I like it more, not just for new players, but also because it streamlines the game in a way that does not actually take away any complexity because there wasn't any there to begin with. So that's a really good start. Another thing I want to show you guys is this really freaking awesome new system where they have builds that players can submit in-game with the in-game UI. Lots of video games still haven't done something like this, okay? I think of card games where you have to go to third-party sites to find decks, right? This is kind of the same concept, but in-game. So you can literally look for these player-submitted guides, or semi-guides, pseudo-guides, you could even say. As in, what they really do is they show you the armor and weapons you want to be using, the mystic enchants, so this really helps people who don't want the theory craft, they just want a build to play, all the talents, and all of the spells to get. All you have to do is click on one of these, so I'll click Demon Fire Tank. And it says use cloth armor, you want a one-handed sword and a shield for this, your primary stats agility, these are the mystic enchants you're going to want, so survivalist, sacred duty, demonic influence, these are the talents you want, these are the spells you want, and what I can actually do is activate this build. So let's go ahead and show you guys that. So I'm going to switch to one of my empty specs, and we're going to go ahead and pick a random talent spec, a random build from the community, just so I can show you guys what happens. As you can see, I was working on some hybrid frost stuff. That's to be determined if it's actually going to be good. But, okay, here's what we'll do. I'm not going to choose this one, but I can think that this would be very good for the community as well. People could submit their builds, and people could actually have fun with the game. You know, knowledge won't feel hidden. People will know, oh, okay, just go look up cat build XD, you know, and that's a really good cat build, even though this guy says I have no idea what I'm doing, but let's just pretend, okay, and everybody could go copy that if they want to play cat, then they can learn to perfect that build rather than starting from scratch, which people don't have as much of an issue with theory crafting. Most people are smart, you know, people want to gatekeep it, but it's really not that difficult. But what people definitely do have a problem with, including myself, is starting from scratch. Starting from the ground up is hard. This prevents you from having to do that. Or it could actually encourage you to do it because you want to put your name up on here and become popular for creating really cool stuff. So let's go ahead and do Hunter Eyes Poison Seal Haste Spec. So I clicked on it. It brings it up to me. It says I want mail armor, one-handed maces, bows, fist weapons, and leather armor. It gives me everything I need. I can click Activate Build. All right, so after you activate your build, you click Learn All. and after a little bit of lag, what it actually does is, if you see here, I have 8 ability essence left over. I'm assuming that's because he didn't spend those, and 0 talent essence, so my talent build will be completely done. Likewise, if I look in my abilities, everything is already put where it needs to be, and now it's just your job to learn how to play this particular build, which is no different than picking a class in base WoW and learning how to master that. The good thing about this is that it's going to make PvP more balanced, because one of the biggest problems with PvP for new players is just not knowing what you're up against, compared to on modern WoW, where it's very easy to learn what all the classes do and then acclimate yourself to that climate. So it's going to streamline things a bit for new players. I think more importantly, though, it's going to open the gateways to some of the more hardcore parts of the game that were just too difficult for people to dip their toes into, right? So I'm talking raiding, right? PvE raiding, or just straight up hardcore, high level arena. Right? Why is this going to be a thing? Mostly for PvE, people who want to devote their time to coming up with builds, that's good on you. And that's something that you can still do. But most people, they just value their time too much to spend hours upon hours. I mean, I've met 2 guys last night, really cool guys, awesome people. And they told me they spent, upwards of a month perfecting a build that ended up being really good, and I'm going to show you both of them. But most people don't want to spend a month perfecting a build. It's not what they want to do. They want to play the game with a build that's already there. They want to do the dungeons and the raids and the arena and the duels and the world shenanigans. That's what they want to do. They don't want to be sitting there number crunching talents, right? That's just not fun for them. So this is very good for them. So that's what I love about this stuff. I mean, instantly you have a build to play. You have talents to play. And guess what? If this doesn't work well for you, you go right back to load build right here, and you look for all of these player submitted builds. This is something you can do yourself. You can click editor mode, you can go to create new or load current, right? If you go to create new, you just start putting your stuff here. You want to use daggers with this build alongside, for example, leather armor, right? For my Mystic Enchants, it'll give you this screen and you just click them. Okay, I want prison tactics. I'm a Shiv build or whatever. Talents, same concept with spells as well. What you'll do is you'll click down here, add spell or talent. Okay, I want Starlight. Another thing you can do is click the little cog wheel and add a tip. So, we use Starlight because it lets me, whatever, right? Like, you just create what you want to do, something that's important for that particular talent to get people to play the build. Another thing I found out about, and I should be able to show you some of this in the video as well, I'll put it up on the background, they've actually retuned the heroic dungeons, at least the heroic ones. I don't know if they've done it to the normal ones, but definitely to the heroic ones. So you'll see that on the background now. We did one dungeon, and the mobs were so damn difficult to kill that, and it was like 4 a.m., that we actually ended up calling the run, okay? Yes, there was 4 of us in this, but we were OP. We were pulling pretty good DPS for what we're supposed to be pulling. And we had builds that, quite frankly, it's kind of surprising that we died as much as we did. And this dungeon may not have been fully tuned yet, but the fact of the matter is this is giving you a taste of the difficulty of the PvE. It's not going to be a joke, right? I don't know about you guys, but I personally feel like on Ascension, PvE is a huge joke because it's classless, and so the game is easier, right? Even if you're not playing a really good build, you're probably still better off than if you played a regular class from the base game. That kind of tends to be how it works, at least from my experience, right? So, this is really fun. But now what I think I want to show you guys real quick, and just keep in mind this is not an advertisement. One thing I do want to show you guys are 2 builds that I got from 2 cool players that can give you an idea of what to look forward to in the game. Maybe you like being a Holy Templar. This is a really cool way to play it. Maybe you like being some huge hulking warrior that just slams and cleaves people, and I'm going to show you a way to do that as well. So let's just jump right in. Alright, so the first one I want to show you guys is the Holy Templar, and the reason I want to show it to you is because it's fun, it's unique, and it's really cool looking on a Blood Elf, okay? Really, really cool. So the kind of armor you want to go for this is just straight up everything intellect, everything spell power, whether this takes the form of cloth or plate, it doesn't really matter. Obviously, if you prefer PvP, I'm sure you're going to want the extra armor. As we move through, you'll see that is the defining theme here, at least where I could get it. Just massive amounts of spell power. Another very important point to this build is you want a 1.5 speed weapon. I didn't understand this entirely until I used it with a better weapon. I have a raid dagger that I can show you guys here, the Nathrezim Mind Blade. This is a 1.8 speed, and it's just too clunky with the way the build needs to play. It'll make more sense in a bit, but essentially, you're going to be auto-attacking while you're casting, and you need your auto-attacks to be able to get in there between every spell that you use. So we take all of the best buffs, right? We have the Flame Tongue for the spell power, we have Aspect of the Beast because we will be using melee, Arcane Intellect, Blessing of Kings, we have the brand new Seal of Vengeance. This fills the Paladin with holy power, causing attacks to apply holy vengeance. This deals holy damage over time. When it reaches 5 stacks, your auto attacks will then do extra holy damage, right? That's really strong, and the fact that we're going to be scaling so hard with that holy damage is why we're going to be auto attacking in the first place, right? So there is actually a decent amount of overtime damage with this build. So we're going to go ahead and put that on. We have the brand new Fel armor. This was changed since my last video and why I haven't put out a Spirit Moonkin build. Both of the Molten armor and Fel armor equivalent spirit, buffing armors were nerfed as far as I can see. This no longer increases your spell power by a percentage of your spirit, and increases your spell hit chance by a percentage of your spirit. Still good. Okay, still good. Not as good as before if you value high amounts of spell power. We're going to take all the main holy spells. For the single target rotation, it's going to be Smite, Exorcism, and Hammer of Wrath. That's literally all that you have to do. For a multi-target situation, you have your Hammer of the Righteous, your Consecration, your Holy Wrath, and your Holy Nova. But one thing you'll see is that rotations aside, you genuinely can play this build however the hell you want and still put up good numbers, but there's still a skill ceiling, right? There's still a plateau that I haven't hit for sure. What I want to show you guys now is the talents. If we go ahead and we jump into my talents, most of them are Paladin abilities. Now, if you're looking for this build in the alpha, all I need you to do is go to load build, as I showed you before, find Galanoria Holy Wrath Spammer, and this will get you a build that is, I believe, very similar, if not the exact same to the one that I'm using, and I may just publish my own version of it on here as well, but it's basically the same as Galanoria. Big shout out to Galanoria. That is who I got this build from. He is the one that helped me theory craft it. He's been a big help on the alpha for the devs with actually testing things and putting in his time there, and he's a pretty good player, very good player as well, so big shout out to you. Check out that. Again, they don't get anything for this. It's just to help people, so you always have to respect people who do that. Now, if we look at the talents directly, most of them are Paladin talents. You take basically everything that you can. So we have the Arcane Intellect, 2 out of 3 in Arcane Mind. We have my abilities, as you saw, 3 out of 3 in Crusade. That's new now. This increases holy and physical damage by 3% and the crit chance of your holy spells by 3%. No longer giving 6% increased damage, instead giving 3% increased damage and 3% crit. Divine Fury to reduce cast times, right? We also have Divine Intellect for increased crit and more intellect. If we go down, Focus Power, 4% increased holy damage. We have the Hammer of the Righteous, Holy Guidance, giving you 18% increased holy spell power, 18% of your intellect, rather, goes towards your holy spell power. That's very good. 6% increased holy damage, 100% increased critical strike damage bonus of your holy spells. Lunar Guidance, this is going to be why we stack intellect in a lot of ways. This gives you 18% of your total intellect as spell damage. That's very good, going with the Holy Guidance as well. I also took, personally, in my version of the build, I took Mind Mastery for an extra 9% of my intellect going towards that. So we have massive amounts of spell power as a result of our intellect. Purifying Power, it reduces the cooldown of things like Holy Wrath and increases the damage of Holy Wrath and Consecrate by a significant amount. Righteous Vengeance, when we crit with that Exorcism or that Hammer of Righteousness, it's going to give us a dot on our target for 45% additional damage over 8 seconds. Holy damage, which is quite good. Sanctified Retribution, this is going to give us 3% increased damage and make our Retribution aura hit harder. Sanctified Wrath now, increase the critical strike chance of Hammer of Wrath by 50%, reduce the cooldown of Exorcism by 40%, and increases the damage and hit chance of Exorcism by 10%. This is essential for this build. You actually can't really play it without it. Sanctity of Battle, same concept. Just to give you a rundown on this, every time you Exorcism, you're going to get a free Hammer of Wrath right after. So you can see I have them next to each other, so I'm going to go ER. TTER, that's how I'm going to do it, right? That's going to be the very standard build to play, and we'll see how that performs on a dummy in a second. Again, Searing Light for 20% increased damage. Surge of Light, anytime we get a direct spell critical, we have a 50% chance to make our next smite instant cast and deal 60% more damage to NPCs, right? So that's pretty strong. Art of War makes our auto attacks give a chance to make Exorcism instant cast, and then Twin Disciplines and Vengeance basically just give extra damage as well. Now, what I like to do is go ahead and actually use the build and see how it performs. So, first and foremost, some abilities I may not have immediately gone over, but we do use them. We have the Curse of the Elements. You're going to want that on your target first. We also have 2 different totems. We have Strength of Earth, and we have Flame Tongue, in which I use Call of the Elements, and that's what Galanoria uses as well, to throw those both out very quickly. At this point, you're done setting up, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click the Master's Training Dummy. I'm going to go ahead and reset my DPS. I'm going to right-click the Master's Training Dummy, and then I'm going to double cast Smite, Exorcism, Wrath. Double cast Smite, Exorcism, Wrath. That's what I'm going to do. Did he Cyclone this? Please don't Cyclone my dummy. Now, I also have the Red Aura and the Berserker stance to turn on. The last thing I want to show you guys before we start this DPS rotation are my Mystic Enchants. These are very, very important. There's a little bit of leeway in how you play with them. I believe Galanoria's would look different than mine, but this is how I'm doing it. I have 1 in Holy Power, giving me 1% crit with Holy Spells. We then went into Holy Wrath, reducing the cooldown by 15%. Smite, increasing the damage of our smite on targets afflicted by the Righteous Vengeance dot that you saw we got in the Retribution talent tree. Hasty Exorcism to reduce the cooldown of Exorcism by another 15%. A really cool one, and the thing that really makes this build so damn cool, like we are a knight, we are a holy Templar, we are an Eldritch Knight, okay? My melee hits will now generate mana. That's why we're auto-attacking, partly, right? There's a lot of synergies here. We auto-attack, we gain mana. You'll notice I never even dip in my mana when I'm playing this build. I never have a single mana issue. That's really cool, okay? There's a lot of things that you could probably do with this build to make it even better, and that's why I love it so much. We also have Purifying Power to reduce the mana cost and the cooldown of our spells. That includes things like Consecration, Exorcism, and Holy Wrath, and then a really cool one with Holy Ground. Our Consecration can now also heal our allies while doing damage to enemies, and so there's a lot of self-healing with this build, and that makes you really good in dungeons, right? Okay, I'm gonna auto. Smite, Smite. Whether it procs or not, you go Exorcism, Hammer of Wrath. Smite, Smite. Look how your hammer is always ready to go if you do it like this, and that's why he chose to do it this way. Smite. There's a little bit of ramp up time to get that Vengeance up for that increased damage with Holy Spells, but it's definitely worth it. So we're at 3K right now. You'll notice how my auto attacks are keeping up that Holy Vengeance the entire time while I'm casting. You're able to get an auto attack in between every cast like this. So we'll just clock it at 3.5. I think when I was testing it with Galanoria, I have it on my notepad as doing 4.3k DPS, and when Galanoria did it himself, he did very similar, if not more DPS than I was doing. So there is a high ceiling for this particular build, right? I didn't pop cooldowns. You could easily get over 4k. You could probably easily break 5k. It's just a freaking sick build. Keep in mind, if you don't know how to do these weak auras to get these procs, that's very important for a build like this. I mean, we have the Exorcism one. We have this one, which is the Hammer of Wrath one, to throw the hammer. Those are very important. Go ahead and look at my weak auras setup video to learn how to make those. I'll put the link in the description as well. Let's go ahead and jump to the next build. All right, guys, let's go ahead and look at Young's build. So Young created a single-minded Fury spec. This is apparently incredibly popular, actually, on the alpha because apparently Cleave is very OP. We're about to figure that out and see it for ourselves. So if you want to go ahead and go to load build, if you do have access to the alpha, you'll find something I believe called SMF. There we go. Active even. I literally just used his build and imported it. First and foremost, we're going to go 5 out of 5 into Poleaxe spec, giving you 5% extra crit and crit damage with axes. We have the Sweeping Strikes. We have the Impale for 20% increased direct damage from our warrior abilities, critical strike damage rather. That's going to be good for Slam and Cleave. Deep Wounds. We have Deep Wounds just to proc the Hunger for Blood ability, or talent rather, that will give us 5% increased damage if our target has a bleed on them for 1 minute. We improve our Slam, as that would imply with a Slam Cleave spec. We go into the Fury tree, improved Cleave, Dual Wield spec, Precision for that extra crit and that extra chance to hit rather, but we also get the crit because we're in Berserker stance. Death Wish has a damage cooldown. Shredding Blows. We also have the Rampage for extra crit, nerfed by the way, not 5% anymore, now it's 3% crit. Unending Fury for that slam damage, and then we also have the Single-Minded Fury. If we go into Protection, we also have Insight. Insight is used with our REs as well, but I'll get to that. That's going to increase the crit of our Cleave by 15%. In Shaman, we went ahead and took Flurry, so we have all of the, you have to attack and get a crit, and then you get a bonus type of thing. With the flurry in the enhancement shaman tree, and the flurry, or the shredding blows rather it's called, in the fury warrior tree. Now if we go over here to rogue, quite a lot of talents as well. We use poisons, and poisons are integral for your DPS. It's one thing I learned from him. You need things like vial poisons to increase the damage of your poisons by 30%. Improved poisons to make deadly and instant poison have a higher chance of proccing. We go into combat. We have 1 in gouge, 1 in dual wield spec here. Blade flurry, that's going to be good for multi-target. Hack and slash. Now this is the reason we use axes. This gives you a 9% chance to get an extra attack on the same target after hitting your target with your one-handed sword or axe. In this case we choose axes because we want massive amounts of crit, and sword spec clearly only works with swords. This is a way to make it work with axes as well, with at least one-handed axes. It's very, very cool, and we'll be using some REs for this as well to increase that chance. And then we have surprise attacks. So again, I'm sure there are ways that you guys can mess with the build as well, but this is a pretty good one, and the reason I'm showing it to you guys is because I was kind of flabbergasted by the fact that I didn't have to do anything to do good DPS. Right? Some of you guys just want to play the damn game, okay? And if that includes basically spamming one button and just, keeping track of your cooldowns, that's fine, Let everybody play the way they want to play. This is one way you can do it and still very much enjoy the game. So for this particular build, you do need a pet. I'm going to go tame a random wolf outside of Shotroth real quick. It's not going to be max level, but it's not going to be the biggest deal in the world. We're going to be utilizing the wolf buff, the pet buff rather, and then I'll get right back to you guys. Okay, we are back. We have our wolf. I'm going to go ahead and put my poisons on. You're going to want your deadly poison on your main hand, is what he said, and your instant poison on your offhand. Now, taking a look at my gear, you will notice that we are stacking agility. Agility is apparently better than strength right now, as they both give 2 AP on the alpha, but agility also gives crits, whereas strength is also going to be giving you things like parry chance, right? Bunch of agility gems into everything, and we took anything we could to just straight up increase our attack power for the slot, right? So we have 2 out of 3 in Insight for extra crit with the cleave, 2 out of 3 in Unbridled Wrath for extra rage, 3 out of 3 improved cleave, 3 out of 3 unending fury for extra damage on our slam, and 3 out of 3 hacking slash for an extra 6% chance to get an extra attack on the same target after hitting them with an axe. All you're going to be doing with this spec, I shit you not, is spamming slam. Okay, you're going to start off by putting down your Wind Fury totem. So again, if we look at our abilities, we have the Aspect of the Beast, which we are currently using, and we have a pet, right? For the warrior spells, we have Berserker Stance, Sweeping Strikes, Charge, Cleave, Death Wish, Rampage, and Slam. For mage, we have Portal Mastery, Blessing of Might, we have the Holy Light for a heal. For rogue, Blade Flurry for multi-target, Gouge, Hunger for blood, and Shadow Dance, and that's more for PvP because you can actually make Shadow Dance basically stay up permanently if you get the brand new legendary enchant right here, Timeless Dance. So this increases the duration by 750%, but reduces your energy regeneration by 50%. That really doesn't matter if you don't give a fuck about using energy stuff, which is very good for a build like this. So you use Shadow Dance, you use Timeless Dance rather, and then you use the defensive Shadow Dance RE for 12% reduced damage while Shadow Dance is active, and you basically have a permanent 12% reduced damage, so that's why that's here, right? That's a good PvP way to play things. In Shaman, took Bloodlust, Call of the Elements, which we only used the one totem, I believe, but it's there, I guess, if you wanted to use like Strength of the Earth totem or something like that, which would make a lot of sense. Wind Shear, and then that's it, okay? As you can see, I have 2 ability essence left over, so what I'm actually going to do is let's just go ahead and grab Strength of the Earth totem. So now I have both of these. Let's go ahead and practice. So the first thing I'm going to do before I DPS is charge, right? And then I'm going to slam. If my slam crits, I can immediately apply Hunger for blood because my crits will proc deep wounds, right? And that says when I get a crit, I apply a bleed to my target based on my weapon damage, I believe. Now, something you could do, if you want to guarantee this, you could take 2 out of 2 in Juggernaut. This gives your charge a 100% chance to make your next slam crit. So that's something you could go for probably for PvP as well. So let's just see what happens, okay? I'm going to go ahead and make sure my pet has all of his stuff on. Charge, slam, it crit, Hunger for blood. Let's pop some cooldowns. I'm just going to spam charge. Slam. I'm going to spam slam. Now, the reason he went with the hack and slash route is because your auto attacks by themselves are what are giving you all of the rage you need to literally spam the hell out of slam and cleave the entire time. He also recommended putting cleave on like your middle mouse button so you could get it off consistently. I just macroed it to my slam. That should show you how easy this is. Didn't require that much, right? To break over 3k DPS pretty easily with somebody who's clearly not playing it perfectly. That's a very big deal. You know, we're not raid buffed, for example, right? So we could do even higher DPS potentially. He broke over 4K. I went to about 4.2K my first time playing this spec. That's very impressive. So again, another one over 3K. And you can see, once the build gets going, it gets going. I mean, your rage never stops, and you just spam the hell out of cleave. Now again, I'm sure there are better ways to play this. Now, as I said, I'm sure I'm not particularly playing the build absolutely perfect, as these people have played the builds much longer. Last night, I did 4.3k with the Templar, 4.2k with the single-minded Fury build when I was trying this, and today, easily both of them, just half-assing it, broke over 3.3k DPS with this build, and 6k or something with the Holy build. And again, that's not even putting any kind of effort into it. That's with no extra buffs. That's with nothing, right? That's just somebody who has only known about the build for about 6 hours prior, 6 hours the night before, and then jumped on today, and bam, I'm instantly able to compete and do raids in TBC and not be griefed, you know, and actually pull decent DPS. So again, this is a pretty simple one, but if you just like slamming people's faces, it's going to be for you. Also keep in mind my pet's level 65. I wanted to show you guys some of the things coming with the TBC alpha because I know we're all very apprehensive. I really do think the load build option where people can put in their own builds and select them from this little area, that's going to be huge for the community. I don't think that's really debatable, right? The new UI that's coming out, the increased dungeon difficulty, and the ability just in general for people to have more options with the REs. You know, maybe one thing I should go ahead and show you guys are some of the new ways they've done REs. They've completely reworked them. I thought it was just adding a bunch onto it. It is that, onto the ones that already exist, but they also got rid of a bunch, is what I'm seeing as well. Shock and Swarm, right? So I was looking for an example of something that was just kind of out there, and this is a great example of one of them. There's a lot of these, okay? Some are really weird. Shock and Swarm says this increases the damage of Earth Shock on targets afflicted by Insect Swarm, so maybe a nature build, right? A true nature build. That could be really cool. Earth Shock, Wrath, maybe Insect Swarm. I don't know, but it could work. These are the things that people need to test, right? There's also one that, it's called Sinister something, right? It's called Pestilence, okay? So Pestilence says, your Sinister Strike spreads corruption and unstable affliction on the target to enemies within 10 yards. So maybe you can be a pseudo Death Knight, right? Your bleeds increase the damage your diseases deal by 5%. There's a lot of little synergies here that people could probably make the most out of and create some pretty brand new, awesome stuff. I'm very excited. Hope you guys are too. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Rest in peace, Wreckful, man. You have meant so much to me. You know, I don't know if you guys knew, Wreckful passed away, and that was a streamer that genuinely helped me through some pretty tough times just by watching him. You know, it's a pretty powerful thing. But he committed suicide today, so rest in peace, man. And I really truthfully hope that whatever is out there after the fact, that you find some peace, you know, with everything that happened. Anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Mcdoubles out.